Prosody is the combination of pitch, intensity, duration, and core articulatory timing that marks prominence and the structural organization of phonological constituents in speech. Stress is the term used for prominence or emphasis on a particular syllable in a word. Intonation is used for the overall prosodic pattern across a sentence. Both of these types of prosody are used together to add a variety of meanings to an utterance. Even without a sentence context, particular syllables in English are stressed on a word. This is called lexical stress. So we have words like realize with stress on the first syllable, but reality with stress on the second syllable. Relative with stress on the first syllable, but relativity with stress on the third syllable. In a few cases, lexical stress can differentiate meaning without any other phonemes being different. So in something like convict versus convict, we have stress on the first syllable for the noun and stress on the second syllable for the verb. Contrastive stress is the use of stress on particular words in a sentence in order to contrast meaning. So in these two mini dialogues, the homework is due Tuesday. Today is Tuesday. The contrastive stress on today indicates that this is important information to the listener. On the other hand, if somebody said something like, it's Wednesday, right? And you said today is Tuesday, you'd be putting the contrastive stress on the word Tuesday to indicate that that's the important information. Articulation of stress leads to higher pitch, greater intensity, and longer duration of syllables. In addition, stressed syllables attract consonants, increasing the degree of co-articulation between the stressed vowel and the surrounding consonants. So in something like realize, that unstressed in the middle doesn't really interact too much with the consonants around it, whereas reality, that al stressed syllable, would have a lot of co-articulation between the a vowel and the ol coda consonant. Intonation is the overall cadence or pattern in a sentence. All sentences have an intonation pattern. The two most common in English are the rise-fall intonation, where stress is placed on the most focused word, and after that the pitch drops in the sentence. So if you say something like class is almost over, or where'd the balloon go, you have those highlighted words where the stress goes up and rises, but then after that it falls through the rest of the sentence. The other common intonation pattern is a final rise, where there is a raised pitch and increased duration from the last stressed syllable all the way to the end of an utterance. So asking a question like, are we having fun yet? Has that rise from the focused word fun all the way through until the question is complete. The rise-fall intonation is used on ordinary, called declarative sentences, sentences that are just statements of fact. It's also used on WH questions, questions that involve what, who, why, how. The final rise pattern is used on questions that can be answered with a yes or a no, and it's also used to indicate that you're not finished talking, like for example if you're giving a list. You might be talking about vegetables you like, and you could say I like peas, I like carrots, and you would keep that high pitch value until your list was finished. While these prosodic cues seem fairly distinctive in these simple examples, they are not unambiguous. For example, pitch is higher in high vowels than it is in low vowels due to contraction of the mylohyoid muscle, which raises the larynx and stretches out the vocal folds. So what counts as a higher pitch on a high vowel would be a bit different from what counts as a lower pitch on a low vowel. Or to put it another way, a stressed low vowel would have a higher pitch, but given the basic higher pitch of high vowels, that distinction might not be as big as you would think. Similarly, intensity is higher for low vowels because the vocal tract is more open compared to high vowels and consonants. So a stressed syllable with a high vowel will have a higher amplitude than a non-stressed syllable with a high vowel, but that amplitude isn't necessarily higher than a non-stressed syllable with a low vowel. In the case of duration, we have a pattern involving voicing such that vowels are longer before voiced consonants than they are before voiceless consonants. So if we have a shorter vowel before a voiceless consonant that's stressed, that vowel will be lengthened, but it isn't necessarily longer than an unstressed vowel before a voiced consonant. So the idea would be if you were trying to measure stress, you would need to be comparing things that are equivalent. So two different vowels that are both before voiced consonants, for example. Two different vowels that are high, for example. Last but not least, there is an area related to the timing of speech production, related to co-articulation, that's called juncture, that you can use to indicate other aspects of your speech, for example, the boundaries between words. So if you take a sequence of phonemes that's basically the same in something like it sprays and it sprays, the amount of overlap between that S and the sounds around it does help differentiate the version where the S goes with it from the S goes with praise. So as a result, whenever trying to measure any of these prosodic cues involving higher pitch or greater intensity or longer duration or consonant attraction where there's greater overlap, you have to be careful about considering absolute values versus relative values compared to similar vowels or consonants in different contexts.